Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Mobility Bros. I'm your host, Ron Hilton. My co-host, Clif Joseph, won't be able to join us today. And our honored guest is Grace Mills. And today we'll be covering, as always, athletic mindset, mobility, pain reduction, the thoughts and processes of practitioners and patients, and the mindset of clients and members. So today we're going to be focusing mostly on the thought processes of practitioners and just some feedback on mobility. So I'm going to read. Grace is gracious enough to give me a very brief bio. So I'm just going to read the bio and just share a little bit about her. So Grace Mills is an athletic trainer, researcher, and dog mom, which is awesome. I'm a dog dad. Grace grew up in Virginia, completed her undergrad studies at Liberty University, and moved to the Midwest to get her doctorates in athletic training from Indiana State University. Her doctoral research has been accepted for publication and will come out later this summer. Congrats.
Thank you.
She has since stayed in Indiana, started working for a unique sports medicine clinic called Myo-Fit Mobility and Therapy, and has recently opened a new clinic for Myo-Fit. She is enjoying the process of building a practice and serving her community, which is amazing. Outside of her career, she enjoys hiking, painting, and writing music, and most of her free time volunteering her community and serving her church. Welcome to Mobility Bros today, Grace.
Thank you.
And how's your day going so far?
Not too bad. I'm getting over an upper respiratory infection, so I've been working on getting my voice back for this, but I know last time we were going to do this, I got sick too, so I was like, I can't push it off twice. I want to do this thing. I want to be here, so I'm doing okay besides that.
Well, I appreciate it. I really do appreciate you and just pushing through it. And just to give the audience a little bit of background on me and Grace, we met on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right? And Grace is so awesome, and she just has a very amazing background. I just really want to just get her on the show and just share a little bit about her. So let's just get into it. So what was your why'd you get into becoming an athletic trainer? Like what got you into this field?
So it was not on my radar whatsoever when I first started. So my first major in college was speech communications. Oh, wow. I was minoring in education and Spanish. So literally none of my paths were medical. I always did well in like science in school, but I just didn't like it. So I clept out of all my math. I said, I'm not taking anything besides my basic science, and I'm going to coast through college. And then at the end of my freshman year, I was in a car accident on campus. And so that really just kind of threw me into a bit of a tailspin. I had such a hard time after that with my back, with the injuries that I sustained. And so had to move back home and was in rehab for that several days a week for almost 4 months, just getting myself back up to functioning kind of at baseline. And so through that process, the clinic that I was doing all my rehab at, their rehab supervisor was an athletic trainer. And so you can imagine if you spend an hour a day, several days a week for months with somebody, you get to know them. And I really got to know her, and she taught me a lot about what athletic training is. And so when I was able to return back to school, I decided to switch majors, get into athletic training, and go all the way with it. And I haven't looked back.
That's awesome. So it's kind of interesting. I shared with you that I've been working with USA Olympic Track and Field, working out there. So there was like this big Scooby, although I was in the rehab and World Sports Massage, there was this big Scooby-Doo mystery of like what an athletic trainer actually did. I honestly didn't know. I thought, fitness professionals, they train people and stuff like that. I wasn't really clear. But when I went to the mecca of like of sports medicine and I went out there, I was like, oh my God, these people are freaking amazing. Like even like the taping they do, it's like an art form, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so artistic and how the quick snaps of the tape and the different kinds. So I was like, oh my God, I was like drooling. I was like, oh my God, I want to learn this. I was like fangirling over it,
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, it's cool. Now what interests you about continuing education, about going further and getting your doctorates with the ATC?
Yeah, so the doctorate in athletic training, it's like a very niche space. There are not many programs in the country at all, about 4 or 5. There's only one that's accredited, and that was Indiana State's program. I'll be honest, the way that my life goes is so unexpected. And really, outside of divine intervention, I don't know how things make sense. So that wasn't on my radar either.
Okay.
The clinical coordinator at ISU reached out to me like right at the very, very start of the pandemic. And through some conversations, basically said, have you thought about getting a doctorate? I said, no, I'm burnt out from school. But we continued conversations, and, long story short, I went and moved halfway across the country in a pandemic and had that experience. But after, researching all of the different doctorates in athletic training that there are, this program really stuck out to me. But just that degree in general, it's a clinical doctorate, so it's not a PhD. We
Okay.
incorporate a lot of research, and we do, research and academic, but because it's a clinical focus, they were all about hands-on skills. So you're learning high level manual therapy skills. You're doing a lot of joint mobilizations that you don't get training in undergrad, and even things as far as suturing, IVs, phlebotomy. Like, you get all of these extra skills that, if you are on a sideline, can be extremely useful, so that you don't have to wait to transport somebody. So it was just a lot. The other part that for me I really enjoyed was they talk about adult education theories, right? So if you wanted to
Okay.
go into higher ed, or even if you just want to do some continuing ed on this kind of a basis, they teach you how to teach people. And then they also do some admin, organizational leadership, things like that. So it felt to me like pursuing that was holistic, right? They're developing me as a person, they're developing my character, they're developing my leadership, my clinical skills. And people have asked me, why did you go all the way through? Right? Like, don't you want to take a break? Like, come back to it.
Right,
But
right,
for me,
right.
right, if you think about a professional new in their career, especially a clinician, you start to develop clinical thinking, decision making patterns of treating people. And what if I'm not great at it? What if I'm creating bad habits for myself, and I go 3 or 5 years into my career, and then I go learn more, and they say, hey, actually, here's a super great way to do it. Here's a system that you can implement. Well, now I've got 3 to 5 years to undo, right? So for
Yeah.
me, that was my mindset. I want to jump into this during my first few years of practicing and treating people, because I want somebody to challenge me. I want you to say, why are you making that decision? Or teach me how to critically evaluate myself, so that I can have that all the way through, that I don't kind of get into this plateau, but I can keep a growth mindset in the way that I treat people.
That's awesome. I think continuing ed and growth is huge. I know,
Yeah.
for me, I've learned things, and it's insane. Like things I learned in school, I like flipped because of science, and things have changed and grown so much. So that thinking of things you may have learned maybe like 10 years ago, it's changed for the better because
Right.
of more information.
Right.
It's like it's really good. And that's awesome. And then you went back to school in the height of the pandemic. Like
Gosh.
that was
Don't know if I'd recommend it, to be honest.
that was insane. I didn't know that you did that. I was thinking maybe you got your doctors before that, but
Yeah.
I really applaud you for doing that, because anybody that tried to do anything during the height of the pandemic, it was it's pretty hard. So
Yeah.
that was pretty awesome. Um, do you have certain sports or athletes that you like working with the most, or particular type?
I get that question a lot, actually. Yes and no.
Okay.
So when I was within the collegiate setting, wrestling and hockey were by far the best things I've ever gotten to work with, because both were new to me. And so, anything that's new is exciting, right? You learn something, and it's just different. But wrestling, like, those athletes, I'm astounded by. They're huge, they're built, they're tough, but they are the most mobile people I've ever seen in my life. When you look at the way that they're able to move, it's wild. And hockey as well was just something I've not been exposed to. So when I was in the collegiate setting, I think those were my favorite. Right now, I'm full time in the clinic, and so I tend to see a range from adolescents, athletes, through geriatric. But I still work part time for Purdue Athletics, and I do rugby and lacrosse. And so I would say rugby has probably become one of my favorite as far as sport.
That's awesome. I could definitely relate with hockey. I work with UConn with the D1 hockey players there.
Yeah.
And you know what I actually found was their lack of ankle mobility. You know, because they're in that one plane of motion, and but their quads are like massive, right?
Yes.
And their glutes are like mountains, right? So, but yeah, it's just it is interesting when you work with different forms of athletes and what they do. You know, and with the wrestlers, I could understand that with how mobile those guys are, because they're constantly, you know, over accentuating a lot of their muscle fibers when they're on the ground. So I definitely get that. What kind of work do you focus on mostly at the Myo-Fit clinic, at the Myo-Fit Mobility Clinic? What kind of work do you mostly do?
Yeah, so we we do a ton of manual therapy.
Okay.
So as athletic trainers, we're still doing some of the stereotypical like injury evaluations, movement screens, and assessments. We're obviously not doing as much of the emergency care and acute management like we would on the sideline with a team. But then the rest of it tends to be manual therapy and education. And so what I mean by education is if you're coming to see me and you don't know your body yet, right? That's 80% of the battle is just awareness of what's going on. So as I work on you, as I teach you what's going on with you, right? You get to know, here's my deficit, here's my area, my growth point, here's what I can do to actually treat myself. Because I tell everybody that comes to see me, my goal is for you not to need me, right? And when you do, I'm here.
Yes.
But if you can learn your body, if you can learn the techniques that are going to keep you moving, that's Myofit's whole pattern. I can't think of the word that I want, but you know, you come in, something's acute. We want to get you out of pain. I'm going to be with you a lot more often. Maybe sessions are going to be more frequent. Once we get you out of that acute phase, now we're moving and growing, right? We're teaching you what's the mobility, what do you need to strengthen, what rehab do you have to focus on, and then we move you into this excel phase, right? It's preventative maintenance. We're getting you back to whatever you want, and that's when we start spreading things out. And so I feel like that's a lot of the education that happens in the clinic is just teaching people what's up for you, what are your patterns, what does your body need, and then how do you take care of that on your own.
That's good. I think it's really important to educate your clients or your patients about what's going on. And what I've found when I work with people is just, and it's basically what you're doing, just ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Ask a lot of questions what's going on, and then just be a great problem solver for whatever is going on with those issues. And what I found out with a lot of ATCs too, especially with the ones I work out with out west, is phenomenal with soft tissue work. Amazing with soft tissue work, not just with taping and just with the emergency piece of it, but really understanding what's going on with the body, focusing on the soft tissue and getting the mobility and just, getting out of pain, getting them mobile and getting them moving. So,
well, that's the thing that I talk to people about all the time that you just mentioned is maybe they do need to strengthen something, right? If there's an imbalance or a deficit in the body that's causing a pattern of dysfunction. But if you can't get into the position that you need to strengthen that, we can't, like we're stuck. We're still at square one. And so a lot of times, very basic example that I see, people are pulled forward and hunched over, their necks forward, because we spend so much time in that frontal plane, computers and whatever. And so if I tell you you got to strengthen your rhomboids, right? Get your scaps back and pull them back. But if this is too tight, you can't get there. It's not gonna be efficient, right? So we talk a lot about neutralize. That's what I call it, neutralizing the body, right? If something's too tight, too weak, if there's an imbalance side to side, how do we neutralize that? Get you back symmetrical and moving, and now we can target your area of dysfunction.
That's awesome. I love that. So you spoke about like in your bio, you spoke about your doctoral research and being published. Are you allowed to speak about that? Can you speak upon
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I love it. Obviously, it was my research for a couple of years, and so I'm excited for it. But it hinges basically on behavioral health and interprofessional collaboration. And so I was able to interview behavioral health providers at Power Five schools in the NCAA. So my goal long term, if we get there, we'll see, is more of an interventional study, because obviously there's a breakdown somewhere of behavioral health care, right? We can see research, folks, especially college kids, right? Just a crazy amount of people struggling with mental health concerns, whether it's depression, anxiety, eating disorders, or whatever. And so bringing it back to very first step was, okay, if there's a behavioral health provider, whether it's a psychiatrist, a counselor, a social worker, whoever it might be at that place, they're going to see somebody maybe once a week, once every couple weeks, right? They get an hour counseling session, right? Yeah. So if an athletic trainer in those settings is with that same athlete 7 days a week, right? We go to morning lift, we go to practice, team dinner, you travel. It's an away game, you're traveling, you're in the hotel, you're on the plane, you see them in all these settings. What can I do that's effective to help you as a behavioral health provider, right? If I'm going to see them all the time, can I implement some skills with them that doesn't cross boundaries of me giving mental health care, right? Because that's going to be two different licenses. What can I help implement? What information can I gather for you that would be pertinent to you without, again, crossing boundaries and sharing things that are too much? And then in the programs that are around the country, what's actually effective, right? Because there are some programs that are doing really, really well, and there are some programs that need a lot of help. What distinguishes the two? And so we did a lot of research breaking down what do the successful programs look like? How are they structured? What meetings are they having? How are they sharing things? So really all the research was about what can we do well, what's working, what's not, what do you want to see from athletic trainers? And then hopefully moving forward, we'll be able to actually train athletic trainers and behavioral health providers on interprofessional collaboration that really serves their population well.
That's good. I love how you talked about the collaboration between, that particular health club provider and ATC, and just basically just merging, because like you said, the athletes spend a lot of time with you,
right,
you see them going through this, and it's understandable when they're an athlete, that especially, I think if you're even at the high school level, if you're performing at a high level, I saw a girl out west, she was 17, and she was running the 100 with a bunch of adults. Like, she's a junior in high school. I mean, the pressure of trying to try to do that, and her coach was a little much.
Yeah.
So much. There was a point I was like, I wanted to look at. It's interesting. There was a point where I looked at him, and his talking became white noise, and I just looked at her and I said, "What do you want?"
Yeah.
Because he was just giving me all this stuff that, so I get it, that there needs to be that point where they don't break and they're not, crumbling, and you need to have that, you're basically the boots on the ground, essentially, because you have that, they're meeting with this person once a week, but they see you every day, so you're boots on the ground. So it's like, okay, what things can I do without crossing boundaries to assist you?
And that's one of the things that we found with the athletic trainer being the first point of contact 90% of the time, and having that relationship established. How the athletic trainer talked about mental health care had a huge effect on if that athlete would seek care or not, like their view on it too. And so I think having athletic trainers really well versed in that and understanding and supportive of the other providers is helpful. But the other thing is, a lot of people think behavioral health, mental health, it's all like the underlying, the pre-existing, right? Oh, I have anxiety, I have depression. But it's situational as well, right? If you think about an athlete who their whole identity is wrapped up in being an athlete in that sport, if they have a season-ending injury or a career-ending injury, right? Their whole community was that team. Their identity was that sport. They were an athlete. And now in a second, you strip it away. how do you deal with that? How do you support that? You know?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I have a very good friend of mine. He actually became a pro football player.
Mm,
And in his first year, he was running back. First year, running down, a linebacker came in, took him out, took out his ACL and his PCL. He didn't even know. He got up and started running again, and then it just completely collapsed.
yeah.
Um, got evaluated and got a call from the Giants and said, "I'm sorry, but no go."
Right.
And just like you said, I mean, he went through this depression. He put on like 40 pounds. Like he
Yeah.
just kind of went through these motions. And I don't, I never really asked him, but I don't think he actually went to actually talk to anybody about that, because that was I remember playing football with him from age like 8 years old. And so that was his whole identity through high school, through
Yes.
college, and making it to, playing semi-pro and finally making it to the pros. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge.
yeah, so I definitely get it. So let's talk about Grace, the ATC to the musician, You know, I don't even know if I said that right. Musician, music.
Yeah. There you go.
So tell me about that. I mean, how long have you been a writer? I see the guitars in the background,
Yeah.
jamming, get the hair flapping
Um,
back and forth.
it's funny. I've never been asked about that. I don't even put it in my bios very often. Um, but it is a huge part of me. It's what I do to decompress, to cope, to process. Um, I started learning probably about eighth, ninth grade. Started teaching myself
Okay.
guitar, and just started just going with it. I thought it was fun. Started playing bass in a band through high school,
Okay.
and I just man with bass you can just groove. Like it's just fun. And so I attend a church regularly and saw play on their worship team.
Nice.
And I songwrite a lot. So I started songwriting several years ago. And we'll see. This is under the radar. We'll keep it down low. There might
Okay.
be an opportunity with some songwriting coming up on a little bit larger scale than my bedroom. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Do you sing too?
I do. Not when I'm sick, but yeah, not. I am not somebody who I want to be the next American Idol, right? I don't want to be the next Spotify star. It's just fun for me, and more so, my songs they're just storytelling, right? Like you have to find it. Going back to what we just said about mental health and all of that, like period, you got to find a way to deal with life, right? And so it's just a way for me to process it myself, but then to tell the story, because I've been so impacted by people, whether it's a song or anything else, that through the years they've shared, right? Here's me in my pit, here's me going through this thing, here's me
Yeah.
getting hope again.
Yeah.
And you find yourself in people's stories.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love, I talk to so many fitness professionals, and it's always interesting to see what they do outside of that. Like for me, it's martial arts.
Yeah.
I do jujitsu. I've been doing martial arts since I was 8 years old,
Mm,
so it's
great.
like, so that's like my thing, right? Outside. That's my decompression.
Yeah.
That's me keeping my mental health together, is like going to
Yes.
class and doing that. So
Yeah.
yeah, and last question I want to ask,
Yeah.
and I always ask my guests, this is a question I always ask my guests, where do you see yourself in the future, with your practice, and for you, and for your and with any other further research you may have?
Yeah. It's hard because life's unexpected.
Yeah.
Right. So life's thrown me a lot of curveballs. I definitely didn't expect to be where I am now. Um, but with the track that I'm on now, um, this new clinic that I've gotten into the past year or so, it's really great. It's a great organization. For better or for worse. I really do love my boss as well, and it's just been a place that I've been able to be myself, right? And this is the first job that I'm really just fully me. I'll tell you the good, bad, and the ugly. And it's been good, just maybe even just as I've matured through the years as a person. I don't have time for BS. I don't have time to have barriers and walls here. Like if you're gonna know me, right? And if that means you walk away, okay. Right. Or if that means that we get closer than ever, great. And so being in this space where I really do have full autonomy of my schedule, I really get to connect with people on a good basis. I can be me within the company. Um, so I just opened a new clinic for us here. We're based in
Awesome.
Indy. I live about an hour north. And so having that get off the ground, it's been so fun to watch. Like it's growing fast. It's awesome getting to know great people. So really, if you're asking me career trajectory, probably just watch it grow here. There's some big contracts that we're working on that I hope go through in the next year. That would mean a lot of growth for this clinic up here. So yeah, I'm just excited to see what happens. And if that's not the path, I know there's going to be another one that's going to be good too.
Absolutely. Do you see yourself doing any other types of research and submitting other papers? Are you currently working on anything else right now, or?
So I'm working on a continuing education right now. I got asked to I got an opportunity for December. There's a conference back on the East Coast where I'm from. And so I'm going to end up doing it virtually just because the timing won't work to fly out there. But
Okay.
I'm super stoked for that one. I was kind of wrestling with what will I present on. And dear Lord, the past 3 months, I've gotten some of the weirdest patient cases ever. And
Okay.
so um, I might actually end up doing writing some case studies on them. But one of the case studies I'm going to present for December, and just very unique, kind of out of the box diagnosis, and his journey has been interesting. So I think I would love to continue regularly with continuing education and presenting. I'm looking at some more avenues to present my research that's coming out soon. And then I don't know about doing a whole nother research study. We'll kind of talk with my research team and see if that's something that others are interested in as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Anything else you want to add before we sign out?
It's so weird that we met the way that we did. And I think that's just a small plug. Not like I'll get anything from LinkedIn, but a plug for LinkedIn. And I went to the Chamber of Commerce in Indy. They had this whole session on how to use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And kind of thought it was dumb, but I went to it anyway. But it's proven to be so helpful for me professionally because I meet people all over the country. And just big shout out to you because I think you reached out first,
Yeah.
and then you messaged me. You're like, let's just chat. And
Yeah.
it was weird for me because nobody just wants to talk, right? There's always a pitch, there's always a sell, but it's been really refreshing just to connect with people and just get to know them. So that's been awesome.
Okay. That's awesome. And to be honest with you, Grace, I had to learn that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Working on LinkedIn, and I have a couple other businesses that I'm working right now, and
Yeah.
early on with the LinkedIn phase, I would instantly be like, "Hey, ha, ho," and crickets and big
Yeah.
nose, but you know what I found is just find people that are relatable and just have a conversation and
Yes.
just
Yeah.
really get to know people and what they're about and how you can support them. That's what I really found out.
Yeah.
And we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love your background. I love what you're doing in the industry, and I definitely
Thank
want
you.
to keep growing our friendship. I think this
Yes.
is an awesome friendship that we're working on right now.
Yeah. Yep. For
So,
sure.
so everybody, this is the amazing Dr. Grace Mills. If you have any questions, you want to know more about her, drop it in the chat. If anybody wants to find you or know more about you, how would they do that? Is there a website or anything of that such?
Honestly, LinkedIn's the best. Several months ago, I got off all social media, trying to focus myself a little bit more on my goals. So LinkedIn is the best. I don't have socials right now. You can look up our website if you're in Indiana or Atlanta or St. Louis. You can check us out there.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. I want you to stay awesome, keep stepping into greatness, and be legendary. Have the most amazing, legendary day, and take care for now.